Top story, we begin with the Rolling Stone bombshell report that ahead of the attack on the Capitol, Stop the Steal rally organizers conspired with members of Congress, seen here in order of how much their mother smoked during pregnancy. Quote, the two sources also claim they interacted with members of Trump's team, including former White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, who they describe as having had an opportunity to prevent the violence. The two sources describe participating in dozens of planning briefings ahead of that day. Truly disgusting. Don't these goons know that it's the private sector's job to destroy the sanctity of our democracy?
Chairman, is the Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack aware of the Rolling Stone report, if only because Marjorie Taylor Greene was sprinting around the Holocaust Museum bragging about it?
Sarah, we certainly are aware of the report, and a core part of our investigation is to find out what role anyone played in the planning or conduct of that attack on January 6th. That includes members of Congress. On a very nonpartisan basis, we're determined to get to the truth, and no one is above our examination.
I will say that this report is suspect, considering it doesn't name the House Republican who every night stuffs his mouth with socks so he doesn't admit to anything in his sleep, Jim Jordan.
Now, Chairman, can you confirm that Republican members of Congress coordinated with Stop the Steal planners as described in this report? Or does this report, if anything, undersell it?
I can't at this point reveal what evidence we've been able to accumulate thus far, but I can tell you these are issues that are core to our inquiry. We want to know exactly what went into the financing, the planning, the expectation of violence on that day, what the president's role was, what the members of Congress role was, as well as white nationalist groups and others.
Oh, I knew there had to be some expert planning. How else could you come up with such a genius idea like, let's go yell at the building?
Now, Chairman, if the facts confirm this report, will there be consequences for those members of Congress involved besides drowning in a sea of campaign donations?
I think if it's confirmed that members of Congress played a role in organizing an attack on the Capitol, there will be consequences in terms of whether any have committed a prosecutable offense. That will be up to the Justice Department. But in Congress, we have the power to censure or even expel members of Congress. And so we will look at whatever remedy is appropriate. But first, we need to make sure to find the facts and make those facts known to the American people.
Well, the Rolling Stone report that Fox News is waiting to report on until they can find a direct link to a Hunter Biden watercolor says that, quote, both sources say Congressman Paul Gosar dangled the possibility of a blanket pardon in an unrelated ongoing investigation to encourage them to plan the protests. Our impression was that it was a done deal, the organizer says, that he'd spoken to the president about it in the Oval in a meeting about pardons, and that our names came up. Chairman, do you have any intelligence that President Trump approved such pardons, or do you not buy that Trump would help anyone who hadn't booked 4 floors at the empty Trump Doral?
Rich, look, I think we can't exclude the possibility of any of these things happening. After all, we witnessed Donald Trump dangle pardons in front of people like Paul Manafort to try to encourage him to keep his mouth shut. We saw him go after people like Michael Cohen and call him a rat when he was willing to cooperate with authorities. Heck, he pardoned Steve Bannon after Steve Bannon stole money from his own supporters to build a wall that Donald Trump said Mexico was going to pay for. So none of this is beyond the realm of possibility for the former president or those around him.
For me, there's no stronger proof that Trump promised them a pardon than the fact that the promise wasn't kept.
Now, Chairman, let's focus on what's important here about the coup, how it plays in the midterms. Does the January 6th issue help Democrats in 2022, or by then will the platform focus on more kitchen table issues like will the wildfires be satisfied if we feed them the kitchen table?
Well, Teddy, look, our priority is to make sure that we get the Build Back Better legislation passed and infrastructure bills passed, and that we make sure the economy is working for every American. That is really our top priority. But we also can't ignore this attack, this continuing attack on our democracy. Right now, they're running with the big lie that motivated that insurrection, and they're running with that big lie around the country to usher in a new generation of Jim Crow laws, as well as to strip independent elections officials of their duties and give them over to partisans who will overturn the next election. So we have to be able to do both these things at the same time.
You know, I got to agree, but my guess is the average American is far more concerned with holding Republicans to account than the creeping darkness of every facet of American life.
Now, Chairman, your new #1 New York Times best-selling book, Midnight in Washington, How We Almost Lost Our Democracy and Still Could, covers the January 6th insurrection. What is more concerning, the content of the book or that so many Americans bought a 500-page book written by Adam Schiff?
Well, I can tell you what's most concerning to Donald Trump, and that is it really pisses him off that the book reached #1. But I wrote the book to sound the alarm about what we've experienced in the last 4 years and the fact that our democracy is not out of the woods. But we all have a duty right now to come to the defense of our democracy. But we cannot assume, as I think too many generations have, that somehow democracy is self-effectuating. Every generation needs to struggle to make sure that we keep it.
Wow, he presents cases at trial, he issues reports, he even writes big books. You just can't deny that Adam Schiff knows how Americans want to consume information.
So right. Now moving on, the House voted to hold Trump administration chief strategist responsible for scaring away wild boar, Steve Bannon, in contempt of Congress for ignoring a subpoena issued by the Select Committee to investigate the January 6th insurrection. The day before the insurrection, he calmed the frothing masses with this call to peace.
All hell is going to break loose tomorrow. It's going to be moving, it's going to be quick, and all I can say is strap in. The war room, a posse. You have made this happen, and tomorrow it's game day.
Apologies if Steve Bannon saying the word game day makes you picture Steve Bannon eating chili.
Chairman, are you glad that Bannon is defying this order because it gives you more time to lay down tarp wherever he'll be sitting?
No, we wish that he had decided to cooperate, but we are determined to get his testimony and prosecute those that ignore the law. It doesn't matter whether you're a friend of the former president, you're going to be held to account like any other American. Any other American who got a subpoena and ignored it, there would be an arrest warrant for them, and there should be for Steve Bannon as well.
You know, I'll bet that once that guy who smooth-talked his way into millions of dollars has to go in front of Congress and talk, he's done for.
Oh, definitely.
agreed.
It's over.